Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Comics Evolve, where we discuss all things around comics media culture with your hosts, Andy, Jarian, and Alex.
Welcome to Comics Evolve with myself, Jarian Gibson.
And Alex Straub.
And we are back after a short hiatus after Agatha All Along, which I think I still need to post. I actually do need to post.
I'm behind on some videos too, posting some. So
I need to post the last one and then our Venom, Last Dance, review.
Yeah.
But how's it going, Alex?
Pretty good. This Christmas kind of snuck up on me a little bit, you know. I know I feel like December just flew right by, and yeah, I mean, it's so hard to believe that Christmas is going to be here in like 3 days. So, you know.
Yeah, I get it too. And with my kids, it's like, what do you want? What do you want? And my daughter sent my wife like a nice list with links to everything.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas my son's like, surprise me. And we're like, okay.
Give us an idea of what you might want.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, that's funny.
At least he gave us the idea of Transformers. He just said not the Transformers ones, but the classic Transformers they brought back out. So
That's cool. Yeah, I feel like it's like one of those things where when you're shopping for your kids, I saw a guy in Walmart the other day and he was like, his kid was picking out everything they wanted for Christmas. And he was like, whoa, don't put it all in the cart. We got to take pictures of that and send it to Santa Claus, you know, like, so I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, you know, it's just one of those things when you're trying to figure out what you're going to do for your kids, it's probably a little bit hard to pin it down, you know, especially with, I feel like things are changing, right? Like as kids get older, like their interests they jump, you know, so many times that it's hard to probably stay up to date. So
yeah, looks like we have the nostalgic Pod Blast with us. Welcome back. Yes, but it's creeping up quick. At least I know what I'm cooking for dinner for
That's
Christmas
good.
Eve and Christmas, so I know that. But yeah, I think mostly right now it's my son does a lot of gaming now. He does a lot of Fortnite, and he's got like the PS5 stuff, so maybe just be like gift cards. Well, we got him some gift cards already, got him some game. I think he wanted like a game for the Switch we already got, and then just some Transformers stuff. So we'll see what happens. The problem is though, is that I buy my kids stuff throughout the year, and then I was like, wait for Christmas. I'm just like, I don't know either. I'm just like, we get stuff throughout the year. It's not really, you know, something that we really wait till the end of the year to give stuff. So.
And it's so hard with kids too, because I feel like, especially when you're like buying stuff for your kids throughout the year like that, you run into the issue of, did I buy this before? Like, you know, I don't want to buy them something like a duplicate, you know. But
and the way kids are growing too, it's like, don't even buy any clothes stuff until like the last minute, because especially with mine being 12 and 10, it's like they're changing throughout the year. And like my son, even from like 3 months ago, was already taller. So
yeah, so clothes don't go out and buy clothes like 3 months before Christmas, then, you know. So
at least not until they're teenagers. Have you watched or read anything recently?
What did I watch? Oh, I've been watching Kite Man, funny enough. I think I actually finished Kite Man, but I actually really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the Harley Quinn show. That's obviously a spinoff of the Harley Quinn show. And I don't know why. I think it's because I just had zero expectations going into that show, but I found it really funny. And I was like, oh, I like Kite Man, but I don't really think this is going to be like amazing or anything like that. And I'm not going to lie, I laughed probably the most out of anything I've watched like recently. It's pretty funny. And I think going into it with like no expectations definitely made that better. And, you know, at the end of it, I mean, yeah, let's say they do a season 2 or something, but you know, even with a season 2, they could do 8 seasons of that show, in my opinion, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's not really like contingent on anything. It's not really playing into anything. It's just kind of wackiness, you know. So I enjoyed that, but I'm trying to think if I've watched anything else. But what about you? Have you watched anything?
Well, before I get to that, I gotta watch Kite Man. I haven't watched it yet, so I'm looking forward to that. What have I watched? So I started showing my son. I think you saw in the chat. Or side chat, I started showing my son the old G.I. Joe cartoons. So we watched that. I think that was the first 2 seasons. Yeah, because the second season is when Serpentor came in the picture. And then after the second season, they had the movie. And that movie hit so hard, the G.I. Joe movie, especially the intro. I'm sitting there watching this. I'm just like, yeah, I understand the movies they made were entertaining, the live action ones. but they gave us nothing like that intro to the GI Joe movie. That when they're in New York, the Statue of Liberty, and it's like going back and forth between GI Joe and Cobra, you know. And then at the end, it's like they give us none of that, you know. And yeah, we had some cool shots and stuff, and they did some things, and we saw some of the classic characters, you know, they did, but I feel like they kind of fell short on GI Joe live action, and I hope they come back and do that. But I hope they kind of go more cartoon style with it instead of trying to change it to make it a live action film. Because what the technology we have today in CGI and stuff, they can kind of make that. And if we were to get like a live action Serpentor on screen, I would just go crazy, you know. But then we started watching the seasons after the movie, and I felt like they went downhill. They changed Serpentor's voice, they changed the animation style, and him and I both kind of lost interest after the movie after that. So the other thing I'm watching too is that my sister is like a big fan of Dexter. And so she got me to watch Dexter finally. So I'm like on season 6 right now of the original series, and then I'm gonna watch like that Dexter continuation series they had, and then now I guess there's a prequel series that's out now. But I will say one thing: I never saw John Lithgow as like a serial killer type role. In season 4, he was like a BTK style killer. In season 4, he played that role really good. I'm on season 6 now, and then Edward James Olmos is in it as well as that kind of role is also like, and he's like more of like a biblical type apocalypse type guy. In season 6, I'm just like, wow. I'm like, I've seen a lot of things with James Edward Olmos, but I've never seen him in that kind of role. It's like I kind of want to see him in that bad guy serial killer type role because he played it really well.
Yeah, I got kind of like a weird kind of thing with that show. I watched Dexter, I don't remember what season it was, but it was like right after the blonde chick that he has the baby with.
His wife, Rita. Yeah.
Rita. Yeah. I think right after she dies or whatever in that show. I think that's where like right about where I stopped. And I never watched that like second series that they did when they came back and they kind of touched on it. But I have a friend that's super big into Dexter, and he was super disappointed with that.
Yeah, with that second series.
When that show came back. So you know, I don't know anything about the prequel series, but I haven't heard very good things about the sequel. So
yeah, my sister's kind of the same way with it. She was, especially I guess how it ended in that second like continuation series. So you know, and honestly, they could have stopped Dexter at the end of season 4 with John Lithgow and Rita and that kind of stuff, because that would have been the perfect ending. And it's like that show, a lot of things are predictable in that show, but I did not see that coming. When he walked into that scene at the end of that season, I was like, whoa, I did not capture that at all. And then the season 5 was like, it's all right. They brought like Julia Stiles in there. She was a victim and his love interest, and they went through that whole thing, and that was okay, but it was kind of a let down after season 4. But then when it came in with season 5, it's like, okay, you caught my interest again with the series. And I'm not going to give it away, but there's a nice twist with in season 5 that reminds you of a certain movie that's very popular. I'm not going to go into it, but because I'll give it away. Tyler Durden. Anyways, there's a nice twist in that season that kind of gives you those vibes of that person. But yeah, that's about it. I still have not seen Craven yet. I was gonna go see it. My last day at work for the year was Thursday, but I ended up working on Friday a little bit to wrap something up for a certification thing I was doing, testing. So I worked a little bit Friday because I was going to go see it on Friday on my first day off, but I haven't seen it yet. But I'm off until January 6th, so I'll probably see it between now and sometime. But you know, I have not really heard the best reviews of it, and it's not doing the best at the box office either. But I kind of want to go see it still, just to go see it. You know, I want to see the Rhino piece because, you know, just because that Rhino thing really interests me. And the first 8 minutes they released, you know, that you could watch online, that looked actually pretty good. So I kind of want to go see it, but I know could be a train wreck.
Yeah, is the first 8 minutes the part where he's like escaping and he
gets in prison to kill somebody? Yep, and then escapes.
Okay. Yeah, I watched that. You know, it didn't look bad. It just, I don't know. I feel like all those Sony movies are in a weird spot right now because it's like, you know, do we really need them? Probably not. I mean, I think Venom's fine, right? Like Venom's enjoyable, and we had 3 of those movies, but I can't imagine, anything like Morbius or Craven or anything being trilogies, right? And it's like, I think Venom kind of got that luxury because a lot of people went to go see the first Venom. I mean, it made basically, like, I think in the same ballpark as like a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. The first one did. So I don't think the second one or the third one did as well, but I still think they made like $500-600 million or something. So a lot of people still like Venom, but I think a lot of the other kind of Sony movies, they're just really suffering right now. And it seems like that Craven movie is not going to do well at the box office at all. And I'll be surprised, honestly, just based on some of the numbers I've seen, if that movie even breaks 100 million, so.
And I get what they're trying to do. It's like outside of Madam Web, I get what that's funny timing because when I say Madam Web, it's in the chat from Nostalgic Pod Blast, but I get what they're trying to do outside of Madam Web. I feel like with Morbius and then with Craven, I get they wanted to try to build up to a Sinister Six. I think making them movies was the wrong way to do it. Like, for example, they could have done series, right? And they could have partnered with Disney Plus or Amazon, because they're doing stuff on Amazon Prime right now, I guess, but still with Black Noir and a couple other things they had out there. I think Silk was canceled though. But at least Black Noir is coming to Amazon Prime. They could have partnered with Amazon Prime and built up the Sinister Six through series, like individual series. Like we got a Morbius origin story, and then kind of build on to him either becoming, an ally for Spider-Man. He's an ally, I think, in the comics. Yeah. And him being like the ally. So when the movie does happen with the Sinister Six, you could have Morbius, you could have Venom be his allies type thing. And then them going against like Craven would have been like the first one they built up for like the villain, right? Then gone into like, the Green Goblin's already established, so we don't need the Green Goblin series. Built up, Mysterio more, like we could have gotten more backstory on Mysterio, based off what we saw in Far From Home. Build up Chameleon, Electro we kind of already got, Sandman we've already kind of got. So use series to build up those other characters we haven't got much on in the movies, and then kind of bring in your Sinister Six type as a film. I think that would have landed more better than them trying to make movies out of the box, because I don't think we need a Craven origin story, as a movie. That would have hit harder in a movie against Spider-Man.
Yeah, I feel like, a lot of movies today suffer from a lot of the stories just aren't needed in a movie format, right? And I feel like there's a lot of characters in comics that it's like, oh, we don't need a TV show, or we don't need a movie based on them, right? Like, they're a great character. They just don't need something dedicated to 2 hours in a theater for them, or, 10 episodes or 6 episodes or whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, I think Craven's kind of in that. Craven's an awesome character, but I don't know if we really needed the movie, and it just doesn't seem like the enthusiasm is not there in the general audience that I think, and I think Sony just kind of overlooked that. I think they were trying to ride off of that like Marvel tailwind of like, oh, we've got Marvel characters, like everybody loves Marvel, we'll just make these movies and pump them out. But I don't know. I think we've hit that weird kind of like plateau where it's like we've got so much superhero content out there right now, and a lot of it's suffering,
The other problem is too is that you kind of got your Sinister Six type feel in No Way Home, plus with all the 3 Spider-Mans, in that movie, and then you got the teases when the rift was breaking open. It's almost like Spider-Man 4 should have built on that. Where, because we're going with the whole multiverse saga now, and it's going to be after Doomsday, I think that Spider-Man 4 is going a different direction. And they kind of already teased that too with Venom too, by him coming over to this universe and that kind of stuff. So you kind of missed your mark with that, and you should have just wrote on like, maybe start bringing these villains in that we kind of got teased in the Rift that we saw. Cause we saw a proper Rhino, we saw Craven, we saw other ones in there too. And maybe have them in Spider-Man 4, but because of the whole multiversal thing, that comes in a Spider-Man 4 type thing, not in individual movies as well. So there's ways they could have gone about this. And I think they missed their mark.
And I think your comment there about No Way Home, I think that may have been the reason why like Sony was like, let's amp this thing up and like
strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah, kind of type of thing. Because it was like, you're right, we did kind of basically more or less kind of get like a jaded version of the Sinister Six in that movie. And I think they were like, oh wow, No Way Home went out and made like $2 billion. Like that everybody's just going to show up if we make these movies,
Yep.
and that's not the case. People show up for Venom movies and stuff like that, but I don't think people are going to show up for things like, if they made a Madam Web 2 or a Kraven the Hunter 2 or a Morbius 2, and those are just to name a few. The Spider-Verse movie, the first one and the second one, those did phenomenal.
Yeah.
And they were good, and they were amazing. And it's so funny to me because it's like Sony knows how to make a Spider-Man movie, but they can't make a movie about anything else. It feels
Without
like.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, without Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just weird. So
Nostalgic Pod Blast says Rhino looks silly, which he kind of does, but there's not precedence within the there's precedence in the comics. There's some kind of a couple of comic times where you see him as full Rhino and not the human face. So, I get what they're trying to do, but for the most people who are more, general stuff that don't read the comics, they should have gone with the more popular look of Rhino in the movie. Hunter Iggy, what's up? Thanks for joining us. But yeah, anything else before we get to the big trailer release this week?
No, I will just say this on the Rhino thing. When I watched that trailer for the first time, I just pictured Deadpool in my mind just saying, wow, you could really use some skin cream there, couldn't you? Like, I don't know why, but like that was all I could think about, like after watching that trailer. So, but yeah, so.
All right, so the big thing we got this week, we got the teaser for the teaser to Superman, and then we got the actual teaser. So it looks like with Superman, this is the first DCU film. Reminder that Blue Beetle was the first DCU character. But Superman is going to be the first film. And it looks like it's going to be, next summer, the same month as Thunderbolts,
I
right?
think it's July 11th, I think.
Yeah.
Movie's coming out. So
it looks like we're going to have Superman in a world that already has established superheroes. So it looks like we saw Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific, Guy Gardner's Green Lantern. I think that was Metamorpho, or we saw at the end with the face, possibly.
Yeah, it was going to be in this as well.
Yeah, so it looks like we already have an established Justice League or Super Friends type model in this movie. We got looks of the Daily Planet. We got looks of Clark Kent. His father's name. What's his first name? Papa Kent.
Oh, Jonathan Kent?
Yeah, Jonathan Kent. We got a which is funny because he was in Constantine. And then we got a Lois Lane. And then we also got I'm going blank now again. The dog's name. Crypto. Yeah, we got Crypto, which Crypto, even though he's still white, a little bit change of breed from the comics because he's a white lab.
Yeah, and I was like, what is this, a terrier? I mean, like,
yeah.
Remember that picture they showed where it's like him and Superman sitting on the moon looking at Earth? And it was like, when I saw that, I could see like the hair. I was like, that doesn't look like a white lab, or, so I was like, I wonder what kind of dog. And then when they actually show that in the trailer and they show him, I was like, what is he, a terrier? Like, so that'll be kind of interesting to see what they do with that. I think, like we were talking about in our private chat the other day, like I think James Gunn basically like adopted a dog that was similar. It was like a similar type of dog, and then he basically put that dog in there because it was similar to his dog. So,
well, we're not foreign to James Gunn putting a familiarity with his close people in his film, so it makes sense. Yeah. But I don't know what to think about this film. I'll go see it. I'll take my son to go see it. It looks. Oh, thank you, Fantastic Four. And the Project Pod Blast says same month as Fantastic Four in July. Thank you. Yeah, because May is Thunderbolts. Thank you. 2 weeks, and so we could have 2 billion grossing 2 billion. Sorry, 2, and then each having a billion grossing superhero movies in the same month. So that'll be interesting to watch. I have no doubt this will be a huge film, probably because it's the first DCU film. It's kicking off the DCU. People love Superman. It's just that some of the visuals to me, and maybe because they shot it different and with different camera styles and so forth, and it gave me some of the CW show vibes though, but not in a good way. Like, for example, I still think Tyler Hoechlin still plays like the best Clark Kent and Superman. Like, I actually like Superman and Lois. That's probably one of my more favorite shows on the CW, besides Stargirl. So it kind of gave me like a Supergirl type feel from those visuals. but also give me like a Legends of Tomorrow feel. Now, I'm not knocking it. I'm gonna say this is my first impression. I will go see it, and I am skeptical because I don't know, something just didn't seem like something didn't grab me. Like you see trailers and they grab you. It didn't kind of grab you. It kind of like maybe say like, what am I seeing here? Type reaction. What was yours?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, it's like I've never been the biggest Superman fan. Like growing up in my house, Superman was like the superhero that like my dad's a huge Superman fan, my mom's a huge Wonder Woman fan, so that was like my entire childhood. I had like Superman just shoved down my throat. I've never been a big Superman fan, and I think it's because of that, but I've never really, I don't think even once gone to go see a Superman movie in theaters. I don't really plan on doing it with this one. And I think the things that kind of like swerve me away on this one is, I get that it's a Superman movie and you can tell obviously that it's a Superman movie, but it feels like it's crowded, like there's a lot of people. I'm sure the budget on this movie is going to be massive. I mean, with marketing, marketing they'll probably spend $100 million on that, and the budget on this might be $300-400 million when it's all said and done. And I hope for their sake that the movie makes $1 billion if that's the case, because that will basically allow them to maybe make just a little bit of money on it after they split money with the theaters and everything. But I don't know, like for me personally, it does look kind of cheap. I'm not the biggest fan of Fillion as Guy Gardner, but it is what it is.
But
whatever.
He got the look down pretty well, though. I think, though it just doesn't look it. The look is good overall, but it doesn't still look right. Yeah,
I think Mr. Terrific looks great.
Yes.
I like Mr. Terrific. I love Hawk Girl, so I was happy to see that. But I think for like overall, like Metamorpho, if I'm just going to talk about the movie a little bit, I think Metamorpho is going to be found in Stag Industries. There was an episode of one of the Justice League cartoons where basically like he was like gonna marry somebody, like the head of the company, like Stag's daughter, and then they like stuck him in like a chamber and he got trapped in there and they turned him into Metamorpho basically, and the guy was like trying to get rid of him, and that's what he turned into. I feel like Metamorpho in this might end up being like a weapon to potentially kill Superman, like if he could turn into kryptonite or whatnot. But I also don't know if they're gonna find that Superman's weak against kryptonite in this movie, because I feel like Lex Luthor is going to be, the main villain mostly, but it's going to be not him, like actually, like doing anything. I feel like Ultraman's going to be tied to him. That's going to be a creation, like a clone of Superman. And this whole movie is going to be about like there's heroes of old, heroes of new. You'll have heroes like the Authority that have been there a while, and like Guy Gardner's Green Lantern and stuff like that. And I think Superman's going to probably do something in this movie that's going to like set off a beacon. Like people are going to be like, hey, why is this guy so powerful? Like, like let's go kind of like poke and prod him and figure out what's going on. But there's a couple scenes in that trailer. To me, like when Guy Gardner walks in and the people are like beating on the glass and freaking out, and he like, uses the Green Lantern ring to put up the barrier, it almost seems like he's like familiar with Superman.
Yep.
Like he's at least been around him. So I feel like maybe Superman's been Superman for like a year or two, but maybe he does something that is just like so just phenomenally like crazy in this movie.
Or Luthor sets him up.
Yeah, and I think that's a very big case too. Like I said in our private chat, I feel like there's a strong case to be made where we get the Homelander Black Noir kind of thing going on here, in like in the comics, where Black Noir was actually a clone of Homelander, and then he just basically takes a bunch of pictures because he looks like Homelander doing terrible things and makes Homelander like believe that like something's going on and everything, and it turns out it's just he's his clone. I feel like they might do something like that where Ultraman's out there flying around in like a Superman costume doing bad stuff, and that ultimately leads to him being, arrested and accused of all that kind of stuff. And it's all just a ploy, right? For Luthor to work with like Argus and Rick Flag Sr. and Waller and everything. And
we also have the engineer too in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah,
like.
And I think that's her purpose, right? Which is like the Authority is kind of a little bit of a different group than like the Justice League. I don't think they hold any like qualms about killing people. So I feel like she's probably being brought in as like kind of like you're good with tech, like you can control tech, and you're phenomenal. Figure out what this guy is like. What is Superman? And I feel like that's going to be kind of like this is. There's always been heroes and everything, but I feel like at the end of this movie, it's kind of like there's never been one like Superman, and I feel like Ultraman has got to be a clone. I don't think he's going to be, from another universe where he's part of the crime syndicate or anything like that. I mean, they might do something crazy like that. Lex Luthor opens a portal to another Earth and brings him in or something. But I don't think we're going to do that. Not to start off this movie. It seems like there's a lot going on in this movie, though. And
yeah, it's going to seem like where are they going to go with this movie? Like, what are they going to set up? We know we have other projects coming, but it's like, are we going to possibly see this universe's Batman, for example? Like we're going to see a Bruce Wayne type in this movie, but not Batman, or maybe it's a shadow of Batman, because we know the Batman stuff is separate. That's gonna, and Matt Reeves has said, I want to stay in my my Elseworlds type thing. So and I wonder if we're going to see this universe's Batman or Bruce Wayne. I wonder if this is going to set up Brainiac at all, potentially, to kind of set things up. But it just, I don't know. We have Nicholas Hoult as Luthor, and he kind of looks a little bit like the Hitman type character, a little bit. I don't really think we've gotten a good Lex Luthor since Gene Hackman, so I'm going to be interested to see how Nicholas Hoult does in this role, because I didn't like the CW Lex Luthor. I didn't like the Lex Luthor in Superman Returns. I didn't like the Lex Luthor in the DCEU either. So
I think that shot where Superman's talking to Lois and they're in that dark room and you see what looks like a giant like green and purple orb with like tentacle looking appendages coming out of it. I think that's Brainiac, and I feel like that's how they're going to end this movie is like Superman's going to, of course, reveal to Lois Lane that he is Superman, and then they're going to eventually have their little moment where they're like talking about it and everything like that. And then as that movie kind of is wrapping up, that's going to happen in the background, and it's going to be like, oh, Brainiac's here, and Superman's going to be like, oh, I got to go, and the movie's going to end with him like flying off to deal with Brainiac. I feel like we're not going to get Brainiac more than probably just like a tail end thing, and I feel like it's going to kind of lead up to Brainiac being in a second Superman movie if we get there, you know? But I feel like this movie feels more like, I don't want to say Justice League kind of movie, but I mean, like, it just doesn't feel like it's just a Superman movie. But I think that the problem with that is like James Gunn is trying to establish all these heroes, so he was trying to cram them all in kind of in this movie, because he's trying to like lay the groundwork, kind of like Superman's kind of like the newer guy on the scene, and there's been heroes for decades kind of type of deal.
And we already know too that we're going to get newer Lanterns with the Lantern series coming. So we know that's going to happen. So maybe Guy Gardner is not long in this film. Maybe something happens to him.
So I actually think that I don't think he'll die in this movie anymore. I think he'll actually die at the beginning of the Green Lantern TV show. And it'll be like his ring goes to John Stewart or whatever. And Hal Jordan will be like, the one who trains John Stewart. So
it almost feels like a post-credit scene in this film could kind of tease the Lantern series. Lois Lane, I'm interested too, because the Christopher Reeve Lois Lane was really thirsty, the way she was, and she was good. I did like Amy Adams as Lois Lane in the DCEU. I also like the Lois Lane and Superman Lois as well. So I'll be interested to see how they do this take in this new movie. It also looks like we're going to get Kat Cora as well in this film, I thought. Or who was or Catco, whatever that.
You're talking about Cat Grant,
Cat Grant, Cat Cora. Yeah, I think Cat Grant, because it looks like, was she the blonde in the one shot that we saw?
I think, I'm not sure though. Because when I first saw that, I was like, is that Sabrina Carpenter in here? Because like that's who I thought that was at first. But I don't know. Like I think this movie's got a lot of people in it. I think Supergirl's going to even make an appearance.
Yeah, I believe we're going to get the interest to her as well. I have some notes on that too as well.
Yeah,
some new stuff.
I think this movie will probably set her movie up later on this slate. So I feel like from that perspective, we probably will get just a little bit of her, but it might be just like a tail end kind of thing, you know. Who knows? I can't imagine that they're gonna really like lean too much on Supergirl in the Superman movie if they're gonna make a Supergirl movie, you know. So,
Yeah, interesting too, the recast her, because I thought Sasha Calle, who played it in The Flash, I thought she did pretty well playing Supergirl, and the way they introduced her, I kind of liked her portrayal of it. So it'd be interesting to see, because the last Supergirl I really liked was Helen Slater.
mhm.
Back in the Reeve days.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wasn't the biggest fan of the CW Supergirl.
Mhm.
The first season was good, but I felt it kind of went downhill after that. So
I feel like Christopher Reeve was like straight up like if Alex Ross could draw Superman as a person, that was Christopher Reeve to me, and that's why I like Christopher Reeve. And I've always got that standard. I don't think that like the suit was amazing or whatever. I just think he physically looked like Superman to me.
And his portrayal of Clark Kent was good as well. So
yeah, and it's like going through like I liked Henry Cavill, right? But I didn't think that Henry Cavill really pulled off the Clark Kent well. And Monty was talking to me about that earlier, and I didn't get to respond to him. But I agree with him on that, because, like, in this movie, I will give Corn Sweat this credit. I think that his Clark, on what I've seen by like the side by side, is clumsy. He's a mess. He's kind of hunched over. But when he's Superman, he pushes those shoulders back and pushes that chest out. And I think that's like something that like Henry Cavill's Superman really didn't do a good job of. Like if I saw Clark Kent, I'd be like, this guy's Superman, right?
Yeah.
Like he just looks like him. Like there's really no difference other than the glasses. So, I think that they've kind of gotten that right in this movie, but I think Superman's such a hard character to pin down and get somebody to play, because like for me, like I said, Reeve is physically like the look for me, and that's always going to be the standard. But I don't know, like Cavill wasn't. I liked Cavill, but he wasn't perfect by any means. I can't say that this one's going to be perfect.
Yeah. He never captured the goofiness, the nerdiness of Clark Kent like Christopher Reeve did, and looks like Corn Sweat's going to do as well.
Mm-hmm.
He was. Yeah, I guess that's the best way to put that. Interesting chat here in the comments. Yes, there is the Zack Snyder bros, that want to sabotage the James Gunn movie. It looks like they're going to go back and forth. I've already seen that on social media. It's like, come on, guys, the Snyderverse is done. Who cares? They tried, things changed. Move on. Let's stop trying to sabotage films because of the whole thing. I think it's dumb.
But what bothers me about that though is like they don't have to sabotage it. If they just don't like it, just don't go show up and see it.
Exactly. I mean, don't spend your money on it.
Yeah. Volumes, like
exactly.
So like that's what it ultimately comes down to, is does it make money or not in this game? And I feel like it's going to be one of those things where it's like, are there enough Snyder people that are going to be out there that are going to be like, oh, like I'm not going to go see this movie and it's going to cost this movie like, $500 million? Definitely not. But I personally am not of the camp that I think this movie is going to probably break $1 billion. I personally feel like with kind of the trajectory of where like a lot of superhero films and stuff have been kind of landing at the box office, I think the first Man of Steel made like 900 million or something like that. I say the first, but there was only one. But with Henry Cavill. But I for some reason I'm struggling to believe this one even makes it close to that. It's just my personal opinion, because I think there's a lot of people like myself that is just very unhappy with DC right now. And James Gunn aside, it's like it's been a mess. It got to be a big mess with the CW stuff when they did, their little Arrowverse stuff. I used to watch the Flash TV show like religiously, and then at some point, like I was like, I can't watch this anymore. Like, and I think a lot of like the CW characters, like other than Stargirl, when that made it,
the best.
Yeah, I love Stargirl. Like I will never stop singing its praises. And I think I told you like 8 times, like you have to watch Stargirl.
Yep, and
like,
you got me to watch it. Yeah.
It was so good. And I think that one was one of those things, like even the CGI was bad. Like Solomon Grundy looked terrible. But like there was just something unique and special about that show. And I think there were. It's probably goes back to like what I said about Kite Man. I didn't have a lot of expectations going in watching it. I just like Stargirl, so I just started watching it. And then I was like, man, this is like one of the best things DC has made as a TV show in such a long time.
Yep.
So now kind of like looking at things with this, I feel like moving forward, I don't know, like I'm not rooting against the Superman movie. I just don't believe that it's gonna do as well as people think. I don't really think people can sabotage like this. Like, I mean, the only thing you can do is try and sway people's opinions to not go see it, right? And I guess if you consider like sabotage, like not spending your money to go see it, which it's like if there's a movie I don't want to go see, I'm not going to pay money to go see it. So, you know, that's kind
of. And didn't the DCEU also kick off Superman too? Wasn't Superman the first? Yeah. So it's
kind of like a slap in the face to me
from
like the Snyder stuff. And I get that. And I feel like it's like if you're a Snyder fan, which let me tell you this, Zack Snyder can definitely make characters look great. Physically, I like the way that he makes them look, but he can't write a story worth anything.
And his shooting style is pretty cool too. But
he makes superhero movies like he made the movie 300. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like, I feel like that's why I liked that one scene where like Darkseid comes to Earth in the Justice League movie, because it's like, oh, it's like all these old gods, like the Greek gods and stuff that are fighting alongside of humanity and everything. It's basically just like they're similar to how the Spartans were in his movie 300. So,
and didn't he do that zombie film on Netflix too? Was it Army of the Dead or?
I think he did do that. Yeah,
those are actually pretty good. Like Dave Bautista was in one of them when they had to go to Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and get some stuff back. So I like that movie too as well. So maybe he should stick more to like horror elements, you know, or stuff like that, you know.
So I think Zack Snyder's problem is like he just will like try and write this crazy story, and then he just creates all these holes in the middle of the story that he just doesn't realize, and it's like he needs a good writer. And I think that's why when he was in charge of like a lot of the DC projects, they suffered. And I think that was pretty much an overwhelming problem with all of DC movies. I mean, like the Wonder Woman 84 movie, 1984, that movie, I love Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, but that movie was awful. It was atrocious. Like
I thought the best part was Kristen Wiig as Cheetah.
Mm-hmm.
Like her evolution in that film and just how she did it. I think that was the best part. But some of those scenes they had with Gal Gadot were like when she said goodbye to her love interest. I'm going blank again.
I can't think of his name.
That scene at the apartment, you know, and or when she's like jumping when in the Middle East, you know, that whole scene was like. And I'm not the biggest Pedro Pascal fan, but I kind of did like him as Maxwell Lord in that film. Steve Trevor, thank you, Natasha Podcast. Yeah, Steve Trevor, that scene where they're saying goodbye was terrible. And I'm not the biggest Pedro Pascal fan, but I thought he played Maxwell Lord pretty well.
Yeah, it was so funny. I don't know why. I guess I just like kind of drew a blank on this one. But like I was like watching that movie and I was like, holy crap, Maxwell Lord is Pedro Pascal. Like I don't know why I never like realized it before I was like watching it. But I guess maybe that's some credit to him because it's like he did such a good job. I didn't even realize it was him, you know? So I don't know. I think you're exactly right. I think all this stuff with that movie was a mess. They needed a good writer. I think that was a lot of DC's problems was they needed a good writer. I can honestly say, and as much as I don't like James Gunn with a lot of the stuff that he does, I do think he's a better writer than Zack Snyder in a lot of ways.
Yep.
Like, you know, like I'm not his biggest fan, but that Guardians of the Galaxy 3 movie was pretty good. Like it was really good. So it's heartbreaking too. So
I like this too here from Natasha Podblast. I'll put it up here. The Linda Carter cameo was nice because they set that up in the beginning. Like the beginning of the movie was pretty cool, and the flashback stuff was pretty cool in the film. But the whole story just kind of didn't, you know, I don't know why they had to jump to 84.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like we went backwards, you know, like the first, well, let me explain this. So yes, the first Wonder Woman film was in, you know, doing World War I believe it was, you know, so we went forward with her story and individual films, but as far as her being in like Batman vs Superman, the Justice League, it's like, why would you go a backwards story? Right. It's like, let's move forward. I don't think they need to go through the whole thing with Steve Trevor and doing that kind of stuff. Like you could have had Cheetah in a modern film too, as well. You didn't have to go to 84.
And you know what bothers me so much is like I was born in the 90s, but I love the 80s stuff. Like I'm a sucker for anything that takes place in the 80s, TV shows, movies, whatever, like love it. And I watched that movie and I was like, oh, this is going to take place in 1984. Like this is right up my alley. And I watched it and I was just so disappointed with
But
it.
some of the visuals are cool though in the
They-
film.
They
Yeah.
are. They are.
So-
I think you hit the nail right on the head when you said that one of the best parts was Cheetah. I liked that, like her final appearance when she had taken her full like cheetah form at the end of that. But yeah, I just didn't like the way they ended that movie. I'll blame that on the writer. I mean, of course, before we got here to this point with DC, we went through the mess with The Rock, where he was gonna,
Black
build
Adam.
up to Black Adam, and it's like, my biggest issue with that too is like we should have done a Shazam and Black Adam movie where it was like, if that second movie would have done better, we could have held off on the Black Adam movie, and that could have been the third movie in the Shazam trilogy, which was Shazam versus Black Adam, and I felt like it would have been okay. But I mean, The Rock, like, puts butts in seats, but like also he didn't put enough butts in the seats for that Black Adam movie, and it's because like there just isn't enough people, I think, that were going to go out and see that movie in comparison to the people that would go out and see like another big name movie, because like Black Adam's a good character and a big character, but I don't think enough people care enough about that like they would Superman or Batman or Wonder Woman, so.
And they kind of teased Black Adam too in the first Shazam, right? The extra chair that was broken, and they were saying that we wonder who that kind of is. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think The Rock missed his Terminator moment, where Arnold Schwarzenegger, where he played that first Terminator film as the villain, and then was able to go on and continue that and keep playing that, and is now kind of like the hero in the film, like one of the heroes in that film now.
Yeah.
I think it's what The Rock had to do. All The Rock had to do was play the evil person in that first film. Toe the line for Black Adam. That could have set up Shazam 3, where they kind of go toe to toe, and we have like a whole thing going forward with Shazam and Black Adam, and those type of stories in their own universe going forward. I think that's where he missed the mark, and he tried to be The Rock in a Black Adam film, which we didn't need.
Yeah, it's just like the weirdest thing that they've ever done in history, which is like they're like, oh, we're gonna end this, but then we're gonna swerve to Black Adam and The Rock, and then a Superman fight, and then we're gonna hire somebody else to then reset It's like, what a mess this is all been.
That should have been a Shazam cameo too. In the end of that film, instead of putting Superman there, they should have had Shazam and the family show up.
Yeah, but The Rock was so hell bent on having Superman fight Black Adam that. I mean, yeah, like people were excited for that, but I think you're exactly right. Like that should have been like, oh, bring Shazam in, like have those two be on screen together. But The Rock was so hell bent on trying to keep those two characters apart when they're like, basically, in my opinion, two sides of the same coin.
Exactly.
Like so, it's like you gotta at some point put them together, but whatever. So.
But I did like Aldous Hodge as Hawkman in that film. I thought he looked pretty cool. So.
Yeah, and Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate wasn't really bad either. I liked that. I didn't like the mask that they did for Dr. Fate, but other than that, yeah, I mean, that movie was definitely like, and then I'll just throw this in there too. The whole Sabak thing, right? Like Sabak was just a different but similar villain to, like the Seven Deadly Sins, or it just kind of felt that way to me. Like, so I don't know, when it's all said and done, like I just think that Black Adam mess kind of really turned me off from DC a little bit. Like I love DC still. I love DC more than Marvel, but I'm just like, I just want to just throw it all down and walk away and come back in a little bit, like I'm just like that mess was so frustrating, just kind of what they did, because it was like, it seemed like the whole ship was being steered by 3 different people in like the matter of like 6 months. And it was like, what is going on here? So I don't know. And I'm also not happy with them making Blue Beetle into an animated show and kind of sliding away with that. And I mean, that's one of the characters that, the Flash movie was awful, and I'm a big Flash fan, but the Aquaman second movie, the Lost Kingdom, that wasn't bad going into this. I don't think it made as much money as they wanted to, but Black Manta was awesome. And then with Blue Beetle, I thought Blue Beetle would at least, get another movie or something, maybe a live action TV show.
Have him show up with Booster Gold.
That would have been perfect.
Yeah.
But, and they left that cliffhanger for Ted Cord where it was like, oh, Ted Cord's out there and we're going to figure out what's going on with that. And then I guess they'll put that in the animated show, or maybe they'll just leave it alone. I don't know.
Maybe we'll get a Blue Beetle 2, maybe?
Yeah, it's just...
Or a series?
For me, I feel like we're just all over the place with DC. And I get that there's a lot of people that are like excited and everything like that. And I've loved DC all my life, but I'm just kind of just like... I find myself like enjoying stuff like Kite Man and stuff now because it's like I have no expectations for that, and it's going to be like, probably not the best, but I enjoy it. But it's like if I go into anything like a Superman, I love Superman movies, or excuse me, I love Superman, but I don't like Superman movies, but I respect the character enough to understand that like he should be treated a certain way. And I don't know if he's going to get that treatment in this movie. I'm not one of the people that believe that like James Gunn just, makes everything comic accurate and whatnot. Because we can talk about the Guardians movies if you want to get into that. But like, it's just one of those things where like, I think there's some all-star Superman influences in this. James Gunn said that. The logo on his chest is from Kingdom Come, which is a great comic. I love that story. And it's just different. I think that one's black. It's got the black on the inside, the black and the red instead of the yellow and red that they're using for this movie. The suit is okay, but I don't know. I don't hate it. Like I said, I have no problems really with the guy playing Superman. It's just kind of the direction of DC right now. Feels like it's just weird, So.
I do hope one thing is that when they do finally cast the new Aquaman, it's a complete 180. Than the DCU casting of Jason Momoa. Nothing against Jason Momoa, but he's not the prototypical Aquaman look. He's and he was more of like a biker boy type Aquaman. And I've always said this. I think Orin, Patrick, what's his name?
I know who you're talking about.
The actor that played Orin. He was more like an Aquaman to me. The look and just the way he carried himself than the actual Jason Momoa portrayal of Aquaman.
Who is the big I think he's blonde, the dude that plays Reacher in that show? He's like big dude.
Oh yeah, the one I think is a dead ringer for Hyperion. I don't remember his name, but I know who you're talking about.
He played Thad Castle in Blue Mountain State. I don't know why I can't think of his name.
Let me look it up real quick.
I'm pretty sure he played, and I could be wrong about this, but I think he played Aquaman in Smallville. And I've always thought that he looked kind of like how I imagined that character, but I don't know. Like I wasn't the biggest fan of Jason Momoa as Aquaman. I did
Alan Rickson.
Alan Richardson or whatever his name is, Rickson, whatever his name is. But yeah, I like him as Aquaman, but I still think the best part of the Aquaman movies was the Black Manta. And that's like nothing against Jason Momoa, but I've never been a big fan of his. He's nothing wrong with him. I just think he's kind of goofy, and that's kind of how they kind of did Aquaman a little bit. And I don't know. I think moving forward, that's going to be the saddest part to me is if they're not going to bring like Black Manta back and bring that actor back to play Black Manta. So like, and he's going to now be in Wonder Man, right? So,
he's Simon Williams.
Yeah, so that's definitely, I feel like, a nail in that coffin. But I don't know. I just getting towards like this whole DC future and everything. I'm really excited for the Green Lantern show. There's going to be that Swamp Thing. I think it's going to be a movie or whatever. I'm a little bit I got a bad taste in my mouth because they actually filmed that show here, and then they like cut the episodes down like 2 episodes or something during filming because of something that happened. And I was in a bar here and was talking to some guy, and he told me he was working on that show, and I got all excited. And then he like had a very sad demeanor about it. And I was like, well, why is that? And he's like, well, they just cut it. So now we're like chopping up the show, and it doesn't flow as well as it did when it had 2 episodes longer. And I completely get that. and I watched it and I was very disappointed. So I feel like I kind of got a sour taste in my mouth here just because that was local. It was filmed in a lake like 5 miles away from me, and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm excited for the Green Lantern show, but then again, that was a holdout that was originally part of the original schedule, and they had already cast Finn Wittrock as Guy Gardner in that role, and they were planning on doing that Lantern show. And then when James Gunn took over, that just kind of disappeared, and Fillion ended up with, you know, the role.
Yeah.
So,
And then now we got Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan, and we got who was John Stewart in the show?
I don't remember his name.
The guy from that Netflix film. He's also I think he voices Mufasa or someone in the Lion King movie too. But hey, I'm always good with Kyle Chandler. You know, I think a lot of roles that he's been in, I've liked him in. So I think he'll make a good Hal Jordan. It looks like he's already getting the look too with his beard and the way he's growing his hair out. So my last thing I'll say though is that I'm looking forward to Peacemaker season 2. And then back to Superman. I wonder if we're gonna get prototypical James Gunn music type thing for this film, or is he going to pivot away from that for the Superman film? So I'm interested to see too.
I got this weird theory that Peacemaker is going to end up. So you remember how like Peacemaker had that big final battle and the Justice League shows up late, and then he basically like calls them a-holes or whatever, and then walks away.
With that's not canon anymore. That's that scene. Yeah, showing up.
So I have a feeling that we're going to get that like weird thing where it's like all of season 1 is just going to have been like in Peacemaker's like head, and he's going to have been in the hospital, and he's going to like wake up from a dream, and then they're going to go that whole route where it's like he's going to walk out of the hospital, and we're going to do that whole thing about him trying to get back to his life when he leaves the hospital. And I feel like Rick Flag Sr. is going to go after him because like he killed his son. And I haven't watched much of Creature Commandos. I fell asleep during the first episode, but one of the first lines in that show between Waller and Rick Flag Sr. is, "I'm sorry about what happened," talking about the death of the son. So like, I feel like that's probably going to take some movement forward in the, you know, the plot for that show, but I could be wrong. But I think that's going to be a really weird step that they have to take to try and navigate around that, like Justice League being in that first season, but then get the second season on track. But you know, who knows?
So we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't. I will be surprised if we don't get another Superman trailer during the Super Bowl. You know, that seems like good timing. That's February, so a couple months out. I'd be fine though if that's all we got was this trailer. You know, I still think we kind of show too much sometimes with trailers, and I know they're still navigating the whole thing post-COVID with the movie theaters and butts and seats and that kind of stuff. So I get why they keep showing stuff to keep kind of the excitement going, but do you keep needing to show trailers with small changes of what's going on? You know, just keep throwing the same stuff. So anyways, let's pivot over to What If. So What If season 3, which is the final season, has started today. I have not watched it yet. I'm going to watch it tonight with my son. But I have some synopsis. So there are 8 episodes. And they're going to run daily from now until next Sunday. So 7 days of episodes. And so we're going to have What If the Hulk fought the Mech Avengers. Sam Wilson suits up in a colossal mech suit to battle Bruce Banner after an attempt to cure himself of the Hulk goes horribly wrong. Bucky Barnes, Monica Rambeau, Moon Knight, and others must join Sam as this new team of Mech Avengers. Now, this seems like a weird episode to me, you know, just looking at the episodes. I'm sure once I get more context and see it, I'll change my thought, but this feels like they want to push more Lego mechs because they keep bringing new Lego mechs out for Marvel.
I feel like you're exactly right with that, right? Like, this is just about the toys for this episode. And yeah, I don't know. Like, I've seen some of those Lego mechs. Like, you know, I bought, I think one or two of them, maybe. I think it's one for my godson. And they're cool. They're cool toys, right? But did we need this in What If? Like, probably not. I can't really speak to it. I haven't watched the episode yet, so I can't really say, did we really need this? But I mean,
hey, but if I get a Moon Knight mech out of this, I'll be happy.
Yeah. So I mean, that's kind of like the weird twist on this, right? Like, Sam, Bucky, pictured those two kind of like being together, but Moon Knight is kind of like a nice little curveball that they're going to throw in on this. So would I have chosen that episode? Probably not, but we'll see.
So tomorrow's episode will be what if Agatha went to Hollywood? On the set of Stark Pictures' first production, the Playboy Arthur quickly finds himself enchanted by his bewitching lead actress, Agatha Harkness. Little does she know there will be another superpower co-star on the set on the call, Kingo. So we're gonna have a Kingo and Agatha Harkness interaction, which I think that's kind of cool because they've kind of already set that with him in the MCU of him being the actor and people recognizing that kind of stuff. So that would kind of be an interesting episode.
And it's going to be really interesting too, because she's lived for like 300-400 years or whatever, and he's lived for like 2,000 years.
Yeah.
At least, so it's like, whatever. But, he lived through the centuries. So that'll be really interesting to see how that kind of plays out for the two. So
Episode 3, what if the Red Guardian stopped the Winter Soldier? It is 1991, and the Guardian wants to prove himself when his antics interfere with the Winter Soldier's own mission to kill Howard Stark. The two Soviet super soldiers must form an alliance to escape the United States. And that's interesting, too, because this goes back to the whole mission report and Civil War from the MCU with the whole Bucky killing Howard Stark, and then Tony finding out that Cap knew that he killed his parents. So this will be an interesting one to see the Red Guardian and Bucky team up. Mm-hmm. Not only because of that, but because of also, too, we're going to get them together in Thunderbolts in May as well.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 4, what if Howard the Duck got hitched? Howard the Duck and Darcy Lewis find themselves on an intergalactic pleasure cruise. When dangerous factions from across the galaxy descend to threaten their trip, they must discover their own cosmic powers to withstand an onslaught. And that's interesting they use the word onslaught, because that could be
Magneto and Professor X. Is that what you're thinking? Like,
no, I'm thinking of I'm thinking of the wrong thing. I was thinking the Annihilation wave. Never mind. Yeah.
Okay.
But Onslaught, you're right. I'm thinking the wrong thing here. That'll be interesting. More Darcy, which we got last season. And then we're gonna get Howard the Duck, which we've seen mostly on the animated side. Mm-hmm. I still love that original Howard the Duck movie from the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. I still love that movie. I'm
gonna say something terrible. I don't think I've ever watched that movie all the way through.
Oh, you haven't?
Yeah, I don't know why, but I've got this weird block on like earlier content like that. I'm such a big supporter and lover of CGI that I hate stuff that was a lot of practical effects and stuff, and I just never really was a big fan of how Howard the Duck looked in that. It looked fine. It just, like by today's standards for practical effects, I think it was pretty good. It just a little odd. So
I missed part of that. I pulled my headphones out and I turned around to get a tissue.
No,
but you're saying the practical effects, you haven't seen it. But it's a fun movie. Mm-hmm. And I know that Leah Thompson, I think, was the main one of the main characters. She was campaigning for another film, I believe, but they didn't get it. But I wouldn't mind seeing another Howard the Duck film with today's technology.
Mm-hmm.
I was still on practical effects over CGI, but I wouldn't mind seeing another one.
Yeah.
Here's a cool one. What if the emergence destroyed the Earth? In the universe where the Eternals never stop the emergence, the birth of a celestial shatters the Earth. Quentin Beck leads an authoritarian regime until freedom fighters recruit Riri Williams on a deadly mission to take him down. So instead of the Eternals, we're going to see Mysterio team up with Ironheart in this one, it sounds like.
It's so funny. I feel like they could just start that episode and be like, what if the Earth was destroyed? And it just shows like the emergence happening, the Earth is destroyed, and it's like
and Eternals like we're out.
The end. Yeah, the end.
We see Arsheim roll in, scoop the Eternals, and bounce.
Yeah. So
what if 1872, in a universe where the heroes of the MCU live in the Old West, Shang-Chi and his pistol-packing partner, Kate Bishop, traverse the frontier, saving the innocent from the evils of the Hood. So that's an interesting one. And we're getting we're going back in the past. So the 7th episode, what if the Watcher disappeared? The Watcher must stand trial for as many interventions. So I wonder if we're going to get multiple Watchers in this one, just to see this one. And then the last one, which is a picture of Okori, what's her name? Haley Atwell, Captain Carter.
Oh, Captain Carter. Yeah.
And then who's the girl with the wings in this picture? Looks like they're all flying off somewhere. And I'm not sure who the other character is. But it's called What If: The End of the Beginning, and I have some news on this too, and it looks like it's going to be. This is going to transition from being the What If show into live action film. So hopefully we'll get the Watcher at some point. I won't be surprised as part of like Doomsday or Secret Wars, or that kind of stuff. Maybe the Watcher is the one to kind of assemble multiversal heroes, possibly like he did in the What If season 1. So interesting to see where this goes and how these tie into the greater MCU.
Yeah, I feel like those final 2 episodes are gonna be like a 2-part thing.
Yep.
Like, right? And I feel like we're probably gonna get, I cannot think of his name, but there's like an evil Watcher who's kind of like an opposite to Uatu. And I feel like we're probably gonna get that, and it's gonna be one of those things like he's going to try and push for him to like stand trial, and then the Watcher is going to be in trouble and get yanked, and it's going to be like, I don't know, maybe they do something where it's like all the people from all the previous seasons kind of like pull together a team to save him or something like that, you know. It'll be really interesting to see what they do, but I mean, like, I don't really think they can be mad at him, right? I mean, it's like when they had that one season where Ultron basically gets the Vision's body and just starts like destroying universes across
the Infinity Stones.
It's like somebody has to intervene, right? Like, you know, so I feel like that argument will be made in that episode, but it'll be really interesting. I think the kind of like loop back to, what was it, 1872, the Wild Wild West, that one reminds me, I think in the last season they had one of those, or it was like they went back to like the Middle Ages or something, right?
Yep.
Seems like it's kind of in that same vein. So
you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if we get an Iron Fist in that one with the guns. Orson Welles.
Orson Randall.
Orson Randall, yes. Welles. Orson Randall, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we get an Iron Fist in that one. That'd be kind of cool, especially since he has the pistols, and I think he would have fit perfect in the Wild Wild West. So
when they had that with what is his name? The guy that plays
Finn.
Finn
Jones.
Yeah. When they had that at the end of that season of Iron Fist, where he pulls out the gun and he shoots the bullets, I was like, oh my God. And then they just don't do anything more. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I was so pumped about that. And then I was just like so disappointed.
So anything else for What If before we get into the news?
No, I will say this, like, I wish they would have probably done a couple episodes different based off of what we've heard so far by the synopsis and everything, but it's a shame they're ending this show after this season. This is the 3rd season, I think, and you know, I get it that I think they want to move past the multiverse stuff, but at the end of the day, you know, it's like they could have kept this running indefinitely.
Because this show is not premised on the multiverse. They made it that way in you know, for the animation, but in the comic books, these are basically just one-off stories, and they can continue those one-off stories forever. It's like, you know, what if not Bucky, but like the Emergence one's a pretty cool one. Like, what if they didn't stop the Emergence, and how's that fallout happen? Or, you know, what if Thanos, what's his homeworld again?
Titan.
Yeah, what if Titan did not fail? You know, we could have gotten that one, or, you know, different ones like you know, any stories that we saw, and they don't have to be tied to the MCU either. Like, they could just tell just different stories through it.
They could just do like the equivalent of like one-shot comics, right? Yep. And it could have been something indefinitely. And I'll compare it to this. I don't know if you ever seen the show Curb Your Enthusiasm, but like that show is like one of the most interesting things to me, because they would like make a season or 2, and then he would just not make the show for like a couple years, and then come back and make another season and come back. They could have done that with this, right? Like, they could have just like put it on the shelf for a little while, come back in 2 years, made some episodes, come back. Maybe they'll do that. I don't know. It doesn't sound like they have any interest in moving forward, but who knows? Maybe the episodes weren't doing as well as they were hoping or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's going to be interesting kind of seeing why they don't leave that opportunity out there for them. I would love to see a Cosmic Ghost Rider episode, right? You don't even just give me 30 minutes of that on TV. You know, like, you could just do that comic. You could do a quick little run of it, and you know, there's a few different little runs of like a few issues, but I mean, you don't.
The Moon Knight annual.
Yeah.
Where he fights Kang, and you have Moon Knights throughout the thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, what if Moon Knight fought Kang, and then boom, you get the basically that Moon Knight annual as an episode, and you see all the different Moon Knights throughout history.
Yeah. So it would have been really interesting to see just a couple of other things, and I feel like they had some cool episodes of What If, but I'm just kind of disappointed that it's going to end because I felt like there was a lot of episodes that I wouldn't have picked, right? Like, you know, I feel like a lot of people wouldn't have picked, right? Like so many people would probably choose a different What If episode than a few of them, but a few of them were kind of sleepers, right? Like in the last, let's see. So last year, season 2 came out and they had the Happy Hogan Christmas episode. That one was actually pretty good. I actually really enjoyed that. So, you know, there's a couple like that they'll throw you off, but yeah, I'm just sad that it's ending, I guess. So.
Maybe hopefully this is just a break and they pick it up again later. Yeah. Like maybe once they get into like the Mutant Saga, whatever they call it next. So start off the news. Speaking of stuff, Avengers stuff. Avengers Doomsday news. Via Daniel RPK, Marvel Studios is reportedly casting for a secret role for Avengers Doomsday. The character is described as a well-known Marvel character that will also have a big role in Avengers Secret Wars. Now, 3 characters come to mind for me that are well-known and that also could be in Secret Wars. The third one, not so much, but the first 2, Molecule Man. You know, they can bring Molecule Man in as one. The Beyonder. You know, so that ties to it. The wild card, though, is Miles Morales. Now, depending when we get Beyond the Spider-Verse, and if that transverses, you know, to him coming into live action, and we get Miles Morales possibly a tease in Spider-Man 4, then we could, or they bring him in from that universe to help fight in Secret Wars, and then he's in the MCU as real, you know, as live action Miles Morales. I think that could be a big one. So I'm trying to think who else they could do it, you know, but I'm just like, who else, well, the Marvel character could they bring in that we don't already have? Yeah. And I think Miles Morales is probably the biggest one.
Yeah, I love that idea that somebody was talking about. And I think it was like a rumor, but there was going to be like some MCU movies that took place on Battleworld or like projects. I love that idea because you can like develop relationships and then kind of have everybody kind of form little teams that then form one big team that helps, you know, turn everything around. Go ahead.
So the other one could be Teddy / Wiccan or Hulkling, because there was talk about the Young Avengers taking place in Battleworld. And so what if the person they teased in Agatha all along, the person we thought was Teddy, just because of the way that went down and just the chemistry there and kind of the whole secrecy, he felt like Teddy. What if they unmask him as the Hulkling in Secret Wars, and that's part of the whole Avengers or Young Avengers project inside of Battleworld? So
I feel like if we get Teddy though, he'll probably just be like a Skrull and probably won't be like, he was like half Skrull and half
Kree, when a Skrull Kree hybrid.
I think he was a half Skrull, half Kree. But I feel like after we've seen like the Skrulls are kind of like hiding on Earth and everything after Secret Invasion, just make him just a full-blown Skrull, you know, like, and just do that and go forward with that. And I feel like that would be one of those things that if that kid did come back and play Teddy, it'd be like, oh, like, makes sense. Just move forward with it. Like, we don't need to like beat a dead horse here. Like, you know, Secret Invasion already kind of laid out that plot that Skrulls are everywhere on Earth. So, you know, so
make him a Skrull, a human hybrid. So
yeah.
Via the Wrap, Chris Evans is cast in a mystery role for Doomsday. There is some chatter out there that he's gonna be Nomad. I've also seen some stuff too that with RDJ, you know, coming back as Doctor Doom, that maybe he could be a Hydra Cap, and there could be like an evil Avengers out there in an alternate world. So we'll see. But there's people are saying it's Nomad, so we'll see. Excuse me. Via Deadline, Haley Atwell is expected to reprise her role as Agent Carter in Doomsday. Now you're bringing back Chris Evans, you're bringing back Haley Atwell. I'm like, at some point, I'm waiting for Scarlett Johansson to be cast as Black Widow and being an alternate universe Black Widow, and maybe they do the whole thing they did with What If, where after that ends, they put her back into the main MCU as the Black Widow again. So you're just bringing everybody back. Like I said, I'm not as excited for Doomsday and Secret Wars because it feels like we're doing Infinity War and Endgame part, again with this different characters switched up, but the same story. Because what's going to happen is Avengers Doomsday, everyone's going to lose. Secret Wars, they all come together, they do some stuff, they're going to win. Boom.
That was my biggest problem with What If too, was it was like after the Infinity Saga, right? Like we went into Loki and immediately it's like, oh, here are the stones and the TVA. And it was like, oh, like maybe we'll move past that. And then like shows like What If just it kept on beating those stones, just beating it into the ground. And I think that like ideal was like, oh, so many people liked that storyline that we'll just keep making everything go back to the Infinity Stones. And I'm just like hoping that we don't end up with them somehow playing a role in this when it's all said and done, because it's like, oh no, like you're exactly right. Like it's so hard to move forward when you keep on making U-turns to go back to previous things. So
yeah, it felt like at the end of Ant-Man and the or Ant-Man Quantumania that we possibly have kind of moved on and could have done a cool thing with Kang. Like Kang could have come back as the Beyonder, with the way that ended. Or like I've always thought that whole scene was trickery and that Scott and Hope came back out in a different universe and they didn't know it. And that's why Scott was being all weird at the end of Quantumania, and that Kang was like tricking them. But too bad that we're kind of ousting Kang now, because, I guess I'll just go back and watch, what was it, Earth's Mightiest Heroes or Avengers Assemble, where they had that Kang part, because they did that better animation with Kang than they did with live action with Kang. So, via Daniel RPK, Ana de Aramis is reportedly in talks for a role. If she's gonna be in Doomsday or Secret Wars, could she be Cynthia Von Doom? Like flashbacks, maybe. Or could she be someone else? Or could she be that big well-known character that they're teasing for Secret Wars? That I'm not thinking, like, what big well-known female character? What if she's Kitty Pryde?
Yeah. I feel like with Kitty Pryde, though, it's like...
You need to go younger?
Yeah, that's kind of like with the X-Men, that's kind of like my tear, right? Like, it's like, are they going to be older? Are they going to be younger? Is Kitty Pryde going to be like a teenager? Is she going to be older? Is Scott going to be like a teenager? Or is he going to be like mid-30s,
I have a hint of that coming up, because there is some chatter about Jean Grey being already casted or in final talks to be casted. So we'll get to that. But I'm trying to think, who else could Aramis be in the MCU? I'm just trying to think.
I don't know.
So my head went to Cynthia Von Doom, and maybe flashbacks or whatever of Doom, especially with Doomsday. I'm just trying to think who else she could be.
If she's related to Doom, she could potentially be like in the Fantastic Four movie, right?
She could be.
Yeah, just like maybe at the tail end or something.
Yeah.
But
it is his role. It doesn't say what project. So, so here we go. So you want to talk about age-wise of X-Men characters? Reportedly, Stranger Things star Sadie Sink is the frontrunner to play X-Men hero Jean Grey in the MCU, and she might possibly debut in Doomsday. So
that was the redhead girl, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So there you go. They're kind of going like late teens, early 20s. It sounds like the X-Men might be like we saw with the second set of films where they were younger.
Interesting casting. Yeah. Like, I don't know how old that actress is, but she can't be any more than like 16, 18 years old or something like that.
Let's look it up.
I feel
How old is Sadie Sink? She is 22 years old.
Oh, wow. She's older than I thought. So, yeah.
Looks like she was also in The Whale.
Okay. The Brendan Fraser movie.
Yeah, then Fear Street Part 1 and Part 2. Stranger Things. Anything else that I might have seen her in? I haven't watched Stranger Things yet. That's my list too, but I haven't watched it yet. My wife says it's pretty good though. She got into that. Yeah, I don't really see anything else that I know that I've watched that she'd be in. She was in Stop Lost. I remember that movie with Ryan Philippe when he's in the military. But that was 2008 though, so she was really young in that film. But yeah, that's the chatter that she's being eyed for Jean Grey. So it looks like we are going to get that similar style cast of X-Men as we got with the last bunch of films. Comics Evolved. Why not the other actress from X-Men First Class? Sophie Turner. Yeah, I'm not sure why they didn't. Maybe she wanted to play the role. Maybe they want to go a different route.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Which, if they go with X-23, with Laura, it's kind of similar age time,
Mm-hmm.
So
We know Hugh Jackman's going to play Wolverine until he's 90. So.
yeah.
So.
Beyond the Spider-Verse, via Deadline, Sony is taking their time with Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse film. The studio has no plans for the film to release in 2025, which is a bummer because this is what, a 3-year hiatus now going to be when that comes out in 2026.
Wow.
But the good news is the first 2 guys that worked on it, that directed it, are teaming up for the third film. So Bob Persichetti and Justin K. Thompson, which one did the first one and then one did the second one, they're actually working together on the third film, which that's good continuity to finish out the trilogy. So Spider-Man 4 via Jeff Snyder, Charlie Cox will return as Daredevil, symbiotes will appear, Sacha Baron Cohen might play Mephisto, but there's some back and forth on that's accurate. Zendaya will have a heavily reduced role due to her busy schedule. John Bernthal might appear as the Punisher. Now, the biggest news, and it sounds like they're doing like one more day type. If Sacha Baron Cohen's in here, this might become like a twist on one more day storyline. But the biggest news, though, is that Daniel RPK is saying that Anna Taylor-Joy is reportedly being eyed for a role. Now, that comes to 2 people in mind if she's going to be in Spider-Man 4. Especially if Zendaya is not as big in it, they need another female lead love interest. So could she be Gwen Stacy in the MCU? Or could she be Felicia Hardy, a.k.a. Black Cat? So...
yeah, I feel like maybe Felicia Hardy, right? Like, I feel like that's probably a strong chance for that.
Yeah. So that's something to keep an eye on. Brave New World. There's a big Empire article that came out. There's a lot of good stuff in it. But Julius Ona says Sam Wilson will surprise everyone with new skills, which we kind of saw that with the whole car chop with the vibranium wings. But he said, of course, over the course of the film, there are things he comes to learn that become other tools in his arsenal when he's facing even the most impossible threats. Via Deadline, Anthony Mackie has addressed Sam Wilson's new high-tech Wakandan suit in Captain America: Brave New World. So there you go. We have confirmed that he gets a new upgraded suit in this film. It looked different than the one we saw in Falcon and Winter Soldier that he got as well. He says, I can kick harder, fly faster, and gives me the ability to be more agile. So it's taking all my skills to a completely different level. So it's almost like he has like an Iron Captain suit in a way, or like a Black Panther suit without the herb. Via Nate Moore on EW, Sam Wilson's being a non-superpowered Sam Wilson being a non-superpowered superhero. Gotta love a Wakanda-made vibranium wingsuit that will somewhat level the playing field. I say somewhat because it's a Red Hulk. What are you going to do? We are very conscious of not having the movie feel disingenuous, so giving Sam equipment to survive is different than giving Sam the equipment to succeed. So it looks like that suit is going to be a big help to him. Like it's going to, I wonder how it ties into him too, because it sounds like it's going to be something possibly tied into him or can read off of him. That way he's a better fighter possibly. We kind of saw Tony use that in Civil War against Cap, the countermeasures, but I wonder with this being Wakandan tech and being the way it is, what they're doing with nanotech and that kind of stuff, if that's going to be more tied into him, like almost extremist-like, but without being extremist.
It's so funny to me too, because it's like for the Hulk, Tony Stark had the Hulkbuster armor in the MCU, right? And the Hulk ran through that, so for Sam, I feel like that's an even more of an uphill battle, so that'll be really interesting to see how they do that on screen. But I have a very interesting feeling that, that's going to be kind of, obviously we've moved past to the Smart Hulk now that led, Jen in the MCU to be She-Hulk and be just like how she is in the comics, which is like, you know, she's not like how Bruce Banner was when he first transformed. And I think they're gonna stick very much to the comics, where it's like, you know, obviously we'll know who Red Hulk is right away.
And he's more conscious than
yeah,
than Banner was.
yeah, and I think he's going to be, you know, just as aware as he is in most comics that you know, he's the Red Hulk. I just think it would have been so cool had they would have just made Red Hulk just like an unknown and nobody knows who it is. Obviously everybody would be like, oh, you know, it's Ross.
Yeah.
But like, you know, if they just didn't confirm that, I feel like that would be awesome. So
At least until we saw the movie, not in the anything leading the movie.
Yeah.
There's also talk on Ross becoming Hulk. For Ross to now become the very thing he once loathed, felt like very media material. What we liked was this notion of a man who was trying to do the best he can, but can't quite outrun the demons of his past. This is Nate Moore saying this about Ross. Turning a guy who hunted Hulks into a Hulk himself makes him more than an antagonist. It makes him a tragic character. There's the anger and everything that goes into that, but Julius wanted to feel more tactical than the Green Hulk. So there you go. It's Thaddeus Ross, right? He's a military trained. Julius give us the reference of a bear in the terms of how he poses himself on all fours. Even during the action sequences, is extremely aggressive in a different way in terms of slightly more methodical action. So he's more like military, like we see in the comics, the whole self-aware stuff. So that goes right along with what you were saying. Ironheart, via the Cosmic Circus, Alden Ironheart will portray Ezekiel Stane, the son of Obadiah Stane in Ironheart. His role in Ironheart has been described as a one-and-done role, which is kind of sad, especially if it's a good role. Young Avengers, via Dana RPK, Marvel Studios has been in contact with Fargo and Legion writer Noah Haley. Among several projects on the table for the Emmy Award writer to tackle is highly anticipated Young Avengers that was recently teased by Marvel Parliament member Brad Winderbaum. Reportedly, it will be a streaming series called Champions, and they are currently looking for a showrunner. So there you go.
Interesting.
Daredevil news, via Empire magazine, Charlie Cox says BA, so Born Again, is a continuation of the Netflix show. A lot of history follows on. The relationships and dynamics set up in the previous season still exist. Now, speaking of that, I did post an article where Brad Winderbaum said about shows being continuation or part of the MCU. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is still not part of the MCU. He says, I still haven't found a way to fit it in. So basically, he says right now that is not part of the MCU. It's still separate. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of reasons why. There's a couple of characters that it's like they were established in that show.
Quake, Daisy Johnson.
Yeah, and you know, I don't think there's at least one or two I think that we've had mentioned in the MCU that were established in that show that show kind of wouldn't make sense to fit in, right? And I get that it's not like perfect, but you know, it is what it is, and we just everybody needs to stop fighting for everything to be canon, because I feel like that's just such a mess, you know, and they're going to try and cram that thing into the main timeline when it's like, dude, just make it a separate universe or something and just leave it alone, you know?
Yeah. He left the door open, though. So it feels like if they could fit it in, they will fit it in, but until then, it's not. So I wonder if they retool Inhumans, maybe, because they did do Inhumans pretty well in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'll give them that credit. Or maybe when they bring Daisy Johnson over into the MCU, then we get that tie-in or something like that. So who knows?
And I mean, like, I guess kind of in a way, if you did bring that in, I guess like the Ghost Rider season, right? Even though Johnny Blaze is in it, right? Like he supposedly passes the Ghost Rider to Robbie Reyes. But we know that Robbie Reyes in the comics does not get his Ghost Rider from that. So, I mean, that's like a prime example where it's like, I guess you would have to go back to Nick Cage and be like, oh, it was that Ghost Rider, and then connect those movies and then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to the MCU. And it's like, dude, just leave it alone. You know, like, don't.
It's a can of worms.
Yeah, whole can of worms. So.
Yeah. X-Men at Virtual Drop in Singapore's Disney APOC content showcase. Kevin Feige on X-Men updates. I think you will see that continues on our next few movies with some X-Men players that you might recognize. So basically, we're going to have some of them possibly pop up. Now, I wonder if that's going to be Brave New World, Thunderbolts. Because isn't Songbird a mutant?
I think she is, yeah.
Yeah.
She's technically a mutant, yeah.
And it seems like Geraldine Fisherwan, who seems like she's going to be Songbird. That could be a hint there. I wonder if Fantastic Four might see anything. I was trying to think the next 3 movies. But Feige promised the audience in Singapore that a new Age of Mutants is on the horizon. Right after that, the whole story of Secret Wars really leads us into a new Age of Mutants and of the X-Men. Again, it's one of those dreams come true. We finally have the X-Men back. So there you go. Right after this phase, we're going straight up Mutant Saga. Fantastic Four at the same event. Kevin Feige also addressed Fantastic Four Future. They wrap next week, so they've already wrapped filming. The movie comes out next summer, and then all those characters go right into the next Avengers movies. So I'm very excited for the future of the Fantastic Four. So at least we know we're going to get them in Doomsday and Secret Wars, but after that, he doesn't really address it.
Yeah.
Thunderbolts, via Empire Magazine, Jake Schreier compares Thunderbolts to Ronin and Reservoir Dogs. It's exciting to think of the movies like Ronin or Reservoir Dogs, where you have a group of people that have no reason to trust each other. Could they even learn to work together? What sort of conflicts would arise? Which reminds me of the robbery team in Reservoir Dogs. You know, Mr. Blue and, you know, that kind of stuff. That's interesting. Says Beef and the Bear influenced the script for Thunderbolts. We are lucky to have my friend Sonny Lee Sung Jin, who created Beef, come on to draft, and my friend Joanna Callow, who works on the Bear after him. And if you think about those 2 shows, they define in the comedy category, but they're very dramatic pieces of work that are touching and emotional in a lot of ways. I think that our film aims to strive a very similar balance. Ideally, the humor comes from the character. So, and the Bear is pretty good. I haven't watched Beef, but the Bear is pretty good. And John Bernthal's in that also, by the way.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's the older brother, and he's I won't say any more away, but he's the older brother. Jamie Lee Curtis is also in there. She's the mother, and she's a trip in that show. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a story about people who have been neglected or left behind or haven't become exactly what they thought they would become. Via EW, Entertainment Weekly, Julie Louis-Dreyfus says that Marvel's Thunderbolts will finally reveal Val's entire plan. Some of her earlier schemes are going to be revealed, and you're going to get a better understanding of why she believes or behaves the way she does. So, in which you kind of know that she's kind of behind the scenes, at least with John Walker and Yelena as well. Interesting to see what kind of ties she has with Bucky or the others in the group. Like Ghost, I'm sure she's having Ghost steal for her, or how she got in touch with Dreykov's daughter.
But no Bill Foster in the Thunderbolts, right?
So there's been talk that he's mentioned, but he's not in it, and I don't know if that's going to change through reshoots or any changes. But early on, there are talks that he's mentioned. I think that Ghost mentions him. I think he's sick or has cancer or something. I think I read, but I don't think he's in it, which is kind of, I think, lame.
I love Lawrence Fishburne, so that's kind of sad. Like, I know they did that one What If episode where it was like, oh, we kind of got more of like Goliath and everything like that, but still, like, at least bring him back, like he's such a great actor. So
Hawkeye news via Dinner RPK, season 2 of Hawkeye will start filming the fall of 2025 for a possible fall 2026-2027 release. Via Dinner RPK also, Robert Pattinson has had a meeting with Kevin Feige about a potential role in the MCU. It'd be so hilarious that he's in Blade as a vampire. I'm just kidding. But could he be an X-Men character?
I don't know. He might be a good Scott Summers.
That's what I'm thinking. It could be a Scott Summers. I don't think he'd play a good Gambit. I don't think he'd be a beast, but I think Scott Summers might be a pretty good role for him. My other thought was Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
Curtis Wagner.
I like him as Kurt Wagner.
Yeah.
I don't know. The thing that bothers me there, though, is it's like we still haven't finished the Batman trilogy with him. So it's like having him jump over to the MCU too. It's like, I don't know if he'll do that or not. I mean, I wouldn't imagine he would turn down the paycheck, but at the same time, like, I know I feel like that might conflict with his schedule. I assume that they're going to make a trilogy out of the Batman. It seems like they are. So, after they're done with this second movie, I mean, he's only really got one more to make. And how far out are the mutants probably in the MCU? At least, 3 years before they really kind of take hold of the MCU?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I feel like maybe we would get through that second movie and he might be finished with the third Batman by that time, and then he could jump ship. But I read somewhere, I don't know how true this is, but I read somewhere that after, like, if they do a trilogy for the Batman, he has no plans of really, like, doing anything else past that third movie. So I don't know how true that is, but that would make sense.
Yeah.
If he did, sign up for the MCU or something. So
I'm just wondering though. I don't know why I mentioned the Beast, because it seems like Kelsey Grammer is back for the Beast. So, or for not the Beast, for Beast. But I think he make a pretty good Nightcrawler.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if they want to hide his look behind, paint, face paint, and all that kind of stuff. But I guess it all depends who they make the MCU's Rogue, since they're adopted siblings.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder, who they would make for a Rogue for the MCU. Yeah, age-wise, but also chemistry-wise too.
Mm-hmm.
And please don't tell me they're gonna bring what's her name over for Rogue. I would not like that. Kristen Stewart, whatever her name is that Stewart? Kristen Stewart? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if that's her name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
I wasn't
Bella.
the biggest fan of her. Yeah. So I don't know.
Via Screen Geek, Colin Domingo met with Marvel Studios about an MCU role. He says they literally sat down and said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I don't know. What do you got for me?" So we're having engagements. He could be Afari in Blade.
Mm-hmm.
As an idea. I'm trying to think what else he could play.
Dracula.
Yeah, he could be Dracula. What about Bishop?
Bishop would be good. I feel like he might be a little old.
Yeah, Bishop, a little old for that.
Yeah, I don't know. He's got such an iconic voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I feel like that's like one of his strongest characteristics. I mean, he's a fantastic actor, but that voice is like one of those that it's like
he could be Sinister.
Oh, he could be Sinister. Yeah, that would be kind of cool.
Or Apocalypse.
Oh, yeah, that would be really cool. And that would honestly help us swerve that problem where we keep seeing that, like, I don't think it's real, but people like, oh, we want The Rock as Apocalypse. Like, no, please, no. Yeah. Keep him away from the MCU, please. He already destroyed DC or tried to. So, like,
Yeah, I think with him, the voice and more of that stuff, I think Sinister or Apocalypse would be good roles for him.
Mm-hmm.
Daredevil, via Collider, Wilson Bethel returns in Born Again. He reveals that Born Again takes place 5 years after the events of Daredevil. These are the characters who have all lived 5 years of life and all the twists and turns that you take in the meantime. Sony Spider-Man universe, The Wrap's Humberto Gonzalez reported the studio has decided to cease development on further projects set within the universe that kicked off with 2018 Venom. It's about the next Spider-Man film. A top talent agent tells The Wrap. So there you go. It's finito. So it looks like after Kraven, you're going to focus on Spider-Man, which is going to be Beyond the Spider-Verse. And then I don't know what they're doing after that. There's been a lot of chatter out there. I don't know what's true about possibly Marvel getting all the rights back to Spider-Man. I would not be surprised if some kind of deal is made.
I thought there was some kind of clause in there that it was like they had to make a Spider-Man movie every couple years or something, and if they didn't, then the rights would automatically revert back to Marvel. I could be wrong about that, but I thought that was like part of the original contract, and I don't know if the thought process with making all these like Spider-Man like villain movies was, oh, well, technically that abides by that contract. Yep. Maybe that might have been the reason why. I don't know.
So what they probably could do, though, is they could probably make some kind of deal with MCU and say, look, Spider-Man is coming back to you, but you have to use Sony Pictures for certain projects or films. That way we both can benefit. So something like that. Or maybe they say, hey, look, you're going to, instead of us having to go to Amazon Prime to develop these TV shows, you can do it on Disney Plus.
And Disney's like, here, we'll make you a deal. We'll shoot it with a Sony camera. So.
Oh my gosh. Marvel Zombies. Via Phase Zero, Marvel Zombies is confirmed to release on October 3rd, 2025, and will consist of 4 episodes, which actually it's 5 because we kind of already got one in What If. Nova, via Daniel RPK, Annihilus will serve as the primary antagonist of the Marvel television series Nova. Via Deadline, Ed Bernero, Criminal Minds, has signed on as a writer and showrunner for Nova. It seems like, and this is conflicting reports of this, so don't take this as gospel. It seems like the main character will be Richard Rider, but there are some reports that left that out, so I don't know if it is. All I know is I hope we get what's his name back and kind of panning, and that whole scene with Xandar being destroyed. That we haven't seen yet on screen, and that kind of leads into the Nova series. That'd be kind of cool.
Are you thinking like John C. Reilly might return?
Yes, with him escaping, type of thing. Yeah. Via Deadline, producer Nate Moore has left Marvel Studios to work on other projects starting early 2025. But the nice thing here is that we have confirmation of a threequel film. He is still attached to Captain America: Brave New World and Black Panther 3. So now we have confirmation that Black Panther 3 is happening, and Nate Moore will be a part of that. Kevin Feige, on him leaving, says, although we will miss him a great deal, we look forward to watching what he does next, while also having the good fortune of working with him in a new way on our next Black Panther movie. Now, people take Nate Moore as the person holding up the recasting of T'Challa, and thinks that him leaving paves the way for recasting of T'Challa, which I don't know if that's true. They've kind of already set the precedence of what they're doing with T'Challa in Black Panther 2, in Wakanda Forever. So
it's a little bit hard to kind of change that now. I mean, it's already been kind of set in stone at this point, in my opinion. So,
we'll unless after Secret Wars, when they reset things. We have some updates. You know who also Coleman Domingo could play? He could play a villain in Black Panther as well. There's a Kibi. There's a couple other Black Panther villains that he could come in as too as well for that threequel. So that's also another thing for Coleman Domingo to come in as. Maybe he's flashbacks as part of Secret Wars as T'Challa, or T'Chaka maybe as well.
Yeah, they should make him. It'd be really cool if they made him the first Black Panther.
Yeah,
like a flashback or something. Like that'd be really, really cool. Like he's the one who discovers vibranium and everything like that. Yeah, that'd be awesome. So. Yeah,
that'd be a pretty cool opening scene for Black Panther 3. But if they don't do that, he could be a younger T'Chaka in Secret Wars.
Definitely.
So, MCU updates via Charles Murphy. Vision is going to be February next year in the UK. Daredevil Born Again Season 2 is going to be February through June of next year in NYC. Doomsday will be spring of 2025, or spring of next year in the UK. I keep forgetting that we're almost in a new year. Spider-Man 4 is going to be June through October of next year in the UK. Nova is going to be mid to late 2025, but doesn't mention where. There's an untitled fall film next year that's going to be in the UK. That could be Blade, maybe. Fingers crossed. And then Avengers Secret Wars is going to be spring of 26 in the UK. Star Wars news, Mandalorian and Grogu via Variety. Jeremy Allen White has reportedly been cast as Rhoda the Hutt in the Mandalorian Grogu. So it looks like he's going to voice a Hutt. He's also the lead star of The Bear.
Okay.
Peacemaker via IGN. James Gunn says that almost all of Peacemaker is canon. The truth is almost all of Peacemaker is canon with the exception of Justice League, which we kind of deal with in the next season of Peacemaker. So there you go. Maybe there's your whole thing about the dream.
Yeah, such a mess.
Via Collider, James Gunn reveals that there is more than one project besides Peacemaker that may be rated R at DC Studios. Judo Master will return in season 2.
Oh, no.
James Cannon explains, so via the Hollywood Reporter, he explained why Justice League cameo is no longer canon. They don't exist yet, but the rules is if we mention something from the past in one of our new DCU shows, then it happened. So that's the way we're dealing with it. So they're not going to mention it in the new show. They're going to retcon that thing, and there you go.
Watch them make season 1 just like his recollection of what happened in season 1, like he's telling somebody, and he's like, they start off season 2, and he's like, so that's how it all happened and everything, and they're like, what is the Justice League? And,
Yeah.
you don't worry about that, like so.
Creature Commandos via Collider, and you guys probably know this if you've watched Creature Commandos, but Peter, and I'm sorry I butchered your last name, Serafinowicz, is voicing Dr. Frankenstein. Alan Tudyk is voicing Will Magnus. Tudyk is also playing Dr. Phosphorus and Clayface. So, DC projects. Go ahead.
I'll just say this: Alan Tudyk is one of the most talented people ever. Like, and he has played so many DC roles and stuff. Like, I mean, he was Mr. Nobody in Doom Patrol, and he's done tons of voice acting and things like that. It's funny that now that I'm talking about it, because I was just watching Dodgeball on TV not too long ago today, and he's
Steve
in
the
that
Pirate.
as Steve the Pirate. Yeah. So like,
I was trying to picture his face real quick. I'm like, I know the name. I looked up his face real quick. So
your best player on your team thinks he's a pirate. Hey, he's more of a pirate than you'll ever be.
Wasn't he in Firefly also?
I'm not sure. He's done so much voice acting. Like in the Harley Quinn series, I'm pretty sure he's the voice actor for the Joker. So
Let me look him up real quick.
Yeah, he's got like a list of all the voice roles that he's done.
He was in Firefly. A Knight's Tale. I remember he was in Knight's Tale. He's in Resident Alien, and that's his TV show he has out there. I've seen commercials for. I haven't watched it. Moana, 1 and 2. Big Hero 6. So a voice actor in Big Hero 6.
Yeah.
Encanto. He was in iRobot. I don't remember him in iRobot. The Serenity film, he was in that too. He's in Superman 2025.
Yeah, he's shoot, what is he? I can't.
He's not the camera dude.
No, he's something in that.
Let's look him up. Who is he in this film? Yeah, because Jimmy Olsen's that one is the guy from the Righteous Gemstones, the son. Which that show I watched too as well. That show was hilarious.
So hilarious.
Yeah. He's not. Oh, it just says Alan Tudyk, but it didn't say who he plays. I wonder if he's going to be Brainiac.
Maybe. Yeah.
Anyways, back on target here. Like, I didn't want a side quest there.
No, that's my fault.
No, you're fine. DC projects. James Gunn talked about them at IGN. It's really Creature Commando, Superman, Peacemaker, Lantern, Supergirl. And then some things people don't know. He was asked to clarify if Lanterns would stream ahead of the June 2026 release of Supergirl. He said, we'll see when it comes out, but they're around the same time. So it looks like we're going to get Lanterns summer spring of 2026. Okay. So with that being said, December 5th, 2024, which we already have out, is Creature Commandos, which is on Max. July 11th, 2025, in theaters will be Superman. August 2025 is Peacemaker Season 2 on Max. It looks like spring, summer of 2026 is Lanterns on Max. And then June 26th, 2026 is Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow in theater. Excuse me. He also talked about the Superman trailer. He said, I remember I was showing it to one of the actors I can't say it because it's not announced she's in the movie. I just realized she was in my trailer and I showed her it and I look over and she's sobbing. So this sounds like Supergirl confirmation. Millie Alcock, Supergirl, could be in the film, or at least a cameo. So Clayface news via James Gunn on social media says Clayface has been greenlit. A script by Mike Flanagan premieres in 2026. So if you want to get filming updates when they start filming, Charles Murphy says Supergirl One of Tomorrow will start in January in the UK, Lanterns in January in Atlanta, Clayface sometime in 2025, don't know where. The Batman Part 2 will be in May of next year in the UK, and then Waller, he's not sure yet. Last two bits of news: Karate Kid. Via Variety, we're almost done. Karate Kid Legends takes place 3 years after Cobra Kai. But that doesn't make sense because the trailer came out, which I'm not sure on the trailer. Because when you look at Daniel-san in the trailer, he looks younger in Karate Kid Legends than he does in Cobra Kai. Especially this latest season of Cobra Kai, the part 1 of the final season, he's starting to show his age. So it looks like they possibly de-aged him, or dude got some hair coloring, because he does not look as aged as he does in Cobra Kai this last season. I wonder too, since this is going to be in the same universe, I wonder if we're going to get any cameo of Johnny as well.
Interesting.
But from the trailer, it looks like Mr. Han knows Mr. Miyagi, and to help train his new student, Mr. Han's new student, he goes looking for Daniel to help him train the new kid. And that's what it looks like what this movie is going to be about. I don't know if they're going to talk about the other Karate Kid that had Jaden Smith. I don't know if that's going to be tied to this. I don't know if this is in the universe or not, because there was no tie to the other Karate Kid films in that. But if it doesn't have any ties, I'm sorry, we know this one's in the same universe, but if we don't see anybody else from the universe, I wonder if this is going to feel like Karate Kid 3, where Mr. Miyagi trained Hilary Swank. That was kind of nothing to do with Karate Kid 1 or 2. This kind of feels like that film, but connected but instead of Mr. Miyagi, it's Daniel being the one helping with the training. So it feels like that. And last but not least, and I'm sure you saw my whole thing about He-Man should be a musical. So He-Man news, Idris Elba is in talks to play Man-at-Arms in the movie, which I think is a pretty cool role for him. And I think he'll bring a different take to the role from what we've seen as Man-at-Arms. And then via THR, Jared Leto is Skeletor. I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be mostly, I don't know if they're going to do CGI or practical effects, but he's going to be in a costume. It'd be interesting to see how he does the voice. Does Jared Leto does any voice acting at all?
I can't think of anything. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I wasn't a big fan of Morbius, obviously, like everybody else. And then when he played the Joker, I just wasn't a fan of that at all.
The gangster Joker?
Yeah. So it's like, I feel like the best thing to come out of that was probably Harley Quinn, and Margot Robbie playing that. But I don't know. I just didn't really care for his Joker. I hated the laugh. I wasn't a big fan of him. And again, I feel like that's another Zack Snyder problem that was created there. But I don't know. I feel like he is not somebody that I really care for in the acting world, and I automatically am like, oh no, whenever he gets cast as something. So
my favorite Leto movie is Requiem for a Dream.
Okay.
That's his probably one of the favorite roles for him. But yeah, I'm trying to think what other roles really stand out to me for him. Fight Club, you really didn't see,
He was in American Psycho with Christian
Bale.
Yeah,
he was Paul Allen. Yeah. And so, he was okay in that film, but
he's so much younger than he was.
Yeah.
Now. I mean, that movie was made, 30 years ago or something?
And they're making a new one.
Are they really?
Yeah, I'm just like, why do you have to remake that? The movie was perfect.
Yeah, that's kind of like, not to get off topic, but that kind of reminds me of like the Gladiator 2 movie that they're doing. It's like, I wanted to go see that. I don't know if I'm going to go see it or not, but it was like, that first one was just so good. Like, you should just at least leave it alone, and it's a sequel, but
it's tied to it though, because the same sister's in it from the first one. Her son's growing up. They kind of allude to, they don't ever say it out loud, but in the first film they kind of allude to it, that her son is Maximus's son from before he got with his wife and had a kid. So it is a continuation of it. So I don't know.
Yeah. Do we really need it though?
Yeah. Whereas American Psycho, it's like they already had American Psycho with Mila. What's her name? Ashton Kutcher's wife, 70s show.
Mila Kunis.
Yeah, Mila Kunis played. There's like a second one where she's like a killer in college, type American Psycho. So they've kind of already done this. It's like, do you need to make another American Psycho? It's just like, leave that one alone. That one's perfect. So, yeah. But anyways, back to my whole tangent. So we were in our chat. Someone mentioned that He-Man should be a musical. And I was like, I thought the same thing as well. And it's like, if you think of the way the song opens up, you know, the theme song and that kind of stuff, it kind of leads into like a musical. They could do it. And my thought is, don't use like current stuff to do it, right? Make it like Jesus Christ Superstar from the 70s. You know, that would be a perfect style of way to do He-Man as a musical, but it kind of lends itself to it. It's like, do something different. I don't know. Thanks, Natasha Podblast, for joining us today. Happy holidays. Have a great one. We're almost done here as I rant on about He-Man stuff, but you know, there's that whole video with him and She-Ra, you know, music video about it. I don't know. He-Man would probably be pretty cool seeing it that way. I did like the 80s film with Dolph Lundgren. You know, I thought they did Skeletor pretty well looking in that film. I thought Dolph Lundgren was a little too slender for the role, though. You know, they need to have someone like, have you seen Terry Crews cosplay as He-Man? That's how He-Man, as far as physique side, should look, just from the cartoons, from the toys, that kind of stuff. And I felt that Dolph Lundgren was a little too tall and slender. I did like the guy who played Man at Arms. I did like Rildor. You know, I thought the movie was a fun film, and some of the things they did. I do not like the Masters of the Universe thing that's on Netflix that Kevin Smith did. You know, I tried watching that. I just can't watch it. But I'm kind of looking forward to this film. You know, I kind of want to see what they do with it, how they do Castle Grayskull, Snake Mountain. You know, are we going to get She-Ra in it? You know, of course, if we're going to get Man at Arms, we're going to get Teela. You know, how they're going to do Evelyn. I did think, what's her name? Who voiced Evelyn in the Kevin Smith project. I like the way she voiced Evelyn. She was the wife in 300.
Okay.
I can't remember the actress' name. But I thought she voiced Evelyn well. I wonder if we're gonna get like Beastman and, you know, who else? Orko. Who else we're gonna get? You know, how they're gonna do the whole transformation from Prince Adam to He-Man, the Sorcerer. You know, I kind of want to see that style stuff. I feel like they missed the mark, because even like Arnold Schwarzenegger when he played Conan, that was more He-Man looking to me than Dolph Lundgren. So that kind of physique. But yeah, I'll get off my little tangent on that.
I'll say this: I read or heard somewhere one time that when Schwarzenegger was cast in that role as Conan, they were like worried about his accent being too thick for him to like say the lines and everything like that. But they were just so like, he is physically so perfect for this role. Like, he's got to be this character. So, you know.
So let me find the full cast, because I think they had it. I saw it somewhere. Yeah, Nicholas Galitzine was cast as He-Man. Camila Mendez will play Teela, it looks like.
Okay.
Sam C. Wilson as Trapjaw. Hathor Bjornsson as Goatman. Kojo Atta as Triclops. Alison Brie is playing Evelyn. I wouldn't mind seeing her in that role. And Idris Elba has been cast as Man at Arms. So it looks like we kind of have the cast kind of round out, but nothing mentioned of the Sorceress or the King or anything like that. But yeah, but it's all going to take place on planet Eternia, though. So it doesn't look like we're going to have the whole thing when they come to Earth like they did in the 80s film. It sounds like we're going to get like the whole Eternia thing and probably play off the cartoon style stuff from the 80s. So
okay.
But yeah, that's all the news. That's all we have today. You have 7 more days of What If. Let me know if you want to do a What If recap next Sunday.
Yeah, we could definitely do that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the final episode will have aired
Sunday.
Yeah, on Sundays. Yeah, we could definitely do something like that. If not, maybe like a day or two after or something.
Yep.
'Cause I don't know if I'm going to be able, with Christmas and Christmas Eve, and then I've got my parents' anniversary and stuff. If I'm gonna be able to like watch all the episodes by that time. So
just let me know. For once, we have nothing going on this year. Absolutely nothing. We're not doing anything. We're not going anywhere. We're not doing anything. It's just the 4 of us this year. So
that's nice.
Yeah, usually Christmas is my wife's holiday, because usually we get together with her family, because she has a bunch of family here in Kansas City. And usually, you know, well, pre-COVID, we all got together like at a hall, and it was like 100 people. You know, it's a long day. Um, yeah,
You
but
must
since
have a large amount of family then if you had like 100 people there.
well, so my father-in-law's from Kansas City, and he has I think 10 or 11 siblings,
Wow.
and like I believe 8 are still alive. So think about all the nieces and nephews and cousins.
Wow.
Yeah,
a
so that's
lot.
why. Yeah, that's why it's a haul. There was pre-COVID, it felt like we had a family thing like every weekend during the summer.
Oh wow.
It felt like, but since COVID, we haven't gotten together as much. It's like it's been more of just like my family, my in-laws, my brother-in-law, and then sometimes my family that's in Nebraska will come down or we'll go there after. So,
Mhm.
but this year my in-laws are out of the country. They went to Mexico. So to visit family, to visit my mother-in-law's side of the family. And so we have no plans to do nothing other than I'm cooking our regular Christmas Eve dinner, and then my kids want grilled pizzas for Christmas dinner. So that's all I got to do this week, besides stuff around the house. So just let me know. I'm on your schedule.
It's funny, we always do pizza for Christmas Eve. Like my
Nice.
family and I, that's like become like we went to my grandfather's one time for Christmas Eve and he was like, I want pizzas. That's what I want for Christmas Eve. And ever since we did that, like 5-10 years ago, however many years ago it was, we have done pizzas every Christmas Eve ever since.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we usually do. Our tradition is usually Christmas Eve. I make prime rib for everybody. Like I'll smoke it, prime rib, and then we'll do that. And then Christmas is usually depends like whose house we're going to, or if we have the hall, which we don't have anymore. But now it's like this year, it's like just do. My kids got to pick because usually I do Thanksgiving is usually my holiday where we can go wherever we want and do what we want because usually Christmas we're home, but Thanksgiving usually we traveled somewhere. But yeah, it's all messed up now with post COVID stuff because no one wants to get together anymore with that big gathering. I guess they kind of got out of it and like no one wants to go back to it. So fun
Makes
stuff.
sense.
Yeah. But anyway, so possibly we might be back next Sunday or possibly earlier in the week to do the final season of What If, and then look forward to if you haven't caught the whole stream today or you're catching this later, we will have the Agatha recap, Venom, The Last Dance recap, plus this being posted here pretty soon this week, probably because I'll get them done now that my end of the year stuff is done for work. So look forward to that. If we don't do What If next weekend or next week, everyone have happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We'll do it as our first episode in 2025 if it's not our last episode for 2024. So don't forget to like, subscribe. If you want to see us doing the Facebook again, make sure you follow the Facebook page because they changed the rules. We have to be over 100 to stream to Facebook again. We're not going to stream back to Twitter or X again because I'm not paying for an account. But you can follow us across all the user places. Comics Evolved everywhere on social media, and Comic Evolve on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. So with that being said, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later.
See you guys. Have happy holidays.